Dude, these weapons are so ridiculous. How am I just finding these out now? Good lord. All right, guys, let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I have a super fun build for you guys here, and I'm really excited to share it with you because I have had probably the most fun leveling and playing through the game with this build than I have in the last 7 run-throughs that I've done of the game. So we're going to start off really quickly with just the weapons because the weapons make the build. This whole build is kind of wrapped around these 2 weapons, and you can get them extraordinarily early in the game. So I'm going to show you 2 versions of this build. The first is going to be the leveling option, and the second is going to be the end game option from about level 130 to level 150. So with that being said, let's get into the first version of this build. But before we get into that, I want to let you guys know that this video is sponsored by our good friends over at Skylong. They are a fantastic keyboard company where you can do customizable keyboards with anything that you need. They were kind enough to send me out the GK75 keyboard. I absolutely love it. The coolest thing about this keyboard, I think, is that it has a split spacebar. So to take advantage of that, I mapped my flask of Crimson Tears to one spacebar and my flask of Cerulean Tears to the other spacebar. So they're literally 1 centimeter away. So if I'm in a heated battle or anything in Elden Ring, I can go ahead and just hit those back and forth so I don't have to scroll through my D-pad to try to find them. If you guys want to know more about them, I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description down below, but I definitely think you should go check them out. We're going to be using the Guardian Sword Spear. The reason we're going to be using this weapon is because it is one of the best scaling weapons with Dex humanly possible, and you can get it super early game on the border of Limgrave and Caelid by farming the Guardians that are on the trail down to the Erd Tree right as you get into Caelid on the left side, and I'll show it right now on the map. So once you farm these guys, I farmed them for about 30 to 45 minutes, and I got 2 Sword Spears. Once you get 2 Sword Spears, you are going to be in line to crush the rest of this game. This weapon makes killing bosses and NPCs extraordinarily easy, and at first I couldn't believe how well it was doing, but as I continued to level through the game, it only got better and better. So there's a few things that we're going to need to make this build as good as it can be while we're leveling. The first of which is going to be the Ash of War Sword Dance, which can be found in Liurnia of the Lakes on the backside next to a dungeon. So I'll show you that right here on the map as we're speaking about it, just so you know exactly where it's going to be. It's from a beetle that's sitting there on the side of the road, and then once you get that, you're going to put that on your sword spear. So going back to the actual weapon, the sword spear is going to have a physical damage of 312 plus 425 at endgame, and it's also going to have a dex scaling of A, which is absolutely phenomenal. It only takes 17 strength and 16 dex to wield this weapon, so you can wield it extraordinarily early in the game, making it one of the most overpowered weapons you can get in Elden Ring right off the bat. Now, once you have both of those sword spear, it's time to move on to our talisman. So the first talisman we're going to be using is the Radagon Sword Seal. Now, this is going to greatly increase your attributes, but it's also going to increase the damage you take. So the attributes that it increases are Vigor, Endurance, Strength, and Dexterity, and it's going to increase those by 5, which is going to give you a really big jump right out of the gate, and then it's also going to increase your damage taken by 15%. I think at early game to mid game, this is a really solid talisman to use because you're not going to be taking a ton of damage from NPCs because you kill them so fast with this build. Moving on to talisman number 2, we're going to get the Arsenal Charm. The Arsenal Charm is going to raise our maximum equip load, and that's only going to make it easier for us to dual wield both of these sword spears and use a little bit beefy armor for the 15% damage that we are taking from Radagon Sword Seal. Moving on to our third talisman, we have the Axe Talisman. This is going to enhance your charge attacks by 10%. This is going to enhance our Ash of War and our skill that we're using with these weapons, and it's going to make them hit a lot harder. So definitely a great talisman to use here. I've enjoyed it, I've loved it, and it's also, I think, one of the better talismans that you can get in the beginning of the game. Now, moving on to our 4th talisman for leveling, we're going to be using the Green Turtle Talisman. This is going to raise your stamina recovery speed, and with this build, if there's one thing that it does, it absolutely chews up your stamina. So this is a really helpful talisman for us to use because with the dual sword spears, with jump attacks, with Ash of War using constantly, we are going to need as much stamina as humanly possible. Definitely a great talisman for us. So if we want to move into the end game leveling process from basically level 130 to 150, you're going to switch out these talismans and it will look a little bit something like this. The first talisman that's changing out is going to be the Dragon Crest Shield Talisman. It's going to enormously boost your physical damage negation, and what that means is you are going to take 20% less damage from bosses and from NPCs on your way through Elden Ring, and this is a massive boost to our damage negation, and this is going to help us out a ton in endgame because obviously taking less damage is great, and that's exactly what we want to do. Moving on to talisman number 2 for endgame, it's going to be Erd Tree's Favor +2. This is going to raise your maximum HP, stamina, and equip load. Fantastic quality of life talisman, absolutely necessary, and I always love using this talisman because it gives you that great handicap of a lot of stat build up at once rather than just 1 or 2 stats. with Tree's Favor is going to increase your HP by 4%, your stamina by 10%, and your equip load by 8%. So, like I said, fantastic quality of life. Now, the third talisman is staying the same. This is going to be the Axe Talisman that's going to enhance our charge attacks by 10%. I like keeping this talisman on because it makes our Ash of War hit a lot harder, and hitting a lot harder in this game is always a good thing. Finally, moving on to our last talisman, we have the Rotten Wing Sword Insignia. This is going to greatly increase attack power with successive attacks. So what that means is the more attacks you do, the higher attack power boost you're going to get. There are 3 separate tiers to this attack power boost. The first attack power increase is going to be 6%, then 8%, and then 13%. So once we get our Ash of War off, bosses are just going to absolutely melt beneath you, and it's going to be so fun. And real quickly, guys, let's move right into our armor that we're using for this set. You can use whatever armor you want, whatever armor you feel is necessary for your build. There was no reason here to use this particular armor other than the fact that I think it looks really awesome, and I think it's one of the best looking armors in the game. We're going to be using the entire Crucible Tree set. That's the helm, the armor, the gauntlets, and the greaves. You can get this from one of the Crucible Knights in Darkroot Depths at the very end of that area. Highly recommend it. You get a great poise boost. You get a lot of armor from this set, but as I stated before, you don't actually need to use this set. You can use whatever you want, and with leveling, you won't have this set until the middle/end game anyway, so use at your own discretion, whichever armor set you think is best for you. And finally, let's move into our summons. I've actually been using 3 separate summons for this particular build and cycling through them, 2 of which I'd never used before, and 1 of which obviously is the Mimic tier. The Mimic tier needs no explanation. It literally is you. So everything you have equipped in your taskbar, everything you have equipped as weapons, armor, all of that, it's going to be combined into the Mimic tier, and he's going to hit just as hard as you do, which is going to lead to some really comical bullying of bosses. So this is definitely a must for this build. The next summon we're using is the Marionette Soldier Ashes. Now, the Marionette Soldier Ashes are really interesting because I didn't think they were going to be any good, but because you are kind of tanky with this build and you're going to be hitting really hard, the Marionette Soldier Ashes allow constant arrows to be flying at bosses and NPCs and breaking their poise and breaking them down so you can continue to beat them to a pulp. It is a lot of fun. I highly recommend these ashes because they're kind of an underdog, but if you've ever used them before, leave it in the comments down below and let me know what you think of them because I think they're absolutely phenomenal. And then last but certainly not least, when it comes to summons, we have Omen Killer Rollo. When I put out a video a few weeks ago about the best summons in the game currently, I neglected to put him on here because I never used him before. I made sure to use him in this playthrough, and am I glad that I did. He hits like a train. It is amazing. He has blood, he has fire, he has 2 massive swords. I love using this guy. I actually used him when I was fighting Millennia, and we bullied her so bad I couldn't believe it. So definitely use him. He is a really fun time, and thank you to everybody who recommended me try him out in the comment section. I really appreciate it. He made this game a lot of fun. So guys, that is going to be it for this leveling/endgame build. This is my first level 150 build, so leave in the comments down below anything that you would change. I will show you a breakdown of my stats right now on screen just so you guys can see what I'm working with, and if you want to replicate this build, you'll have that there for you. But guys, as always, I really appreciate you guys watching my videos and supporting my channel. We're almost at 3,000 subscribers right now, which is absolutely crazy in 3 months, so thank you guys so much for that. If you are not subscribed, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you can know when I'm making more Elden Ring content. I am also going to be moving into some Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom content on this channel, so keep an eye out for that. We'll have videos coming out on Mondays and Fridays. And guys, thank you so much. Until next time, stay safe, enjoy the game. I'll see you in the next one.